Big Time Wrestling Podcast. We've got a first-time guest with us this week, former Devastation star, current Levolution star, leader of the Renegades, the biker, Lance Adams. Lance, how you doing today, man?
Doing pretty good.
You kept yourself busy on Levolution, and we're going to talk about all that, the Renegades and your faction war and your new members and Keisha Jones and Team Cena and all that stuff. But for now, I want to start right here because I feel like your name is one of the most well-known names in BTW. You've been on both brands. You're a former champion. You've been around for a while. But I feel as if, even though your name is well-known, I feel like people don't know a lot about you past what you present to everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and try and clear that air right now. So what I want you to do is, without using the words biker or renegade, I want you to tell us who Lance Adams is and what he's all about.
Okay, well, I started wrestling like a while back, and like ironically, what a lot of people don't know is Lance Adams actually, like before BTW, he actually was in a tag team called the Outlaws, and a lot of people think this is weird because like we haven't really seen eye to eye that much in BTW, but like I actually fought with Blade, which was weird.
yeah, I can imagine.
But how I heard about BTW was, I don't know, I was just watching like an episode one day, and let's see, I believe it was Tony Blaze, Senior, of course,
right,
who brought me in, which kind of ironic with everything going on right now with TV the second.
Right, yeah, that guy's running rampant. We'll talk a little bit more about him later on.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I came in, had my first rivalry with, thought I was going to have a rivalry with Kent Von Eichenberg, but ended up starting things off right with Spike, and took things off to a pretty big level there.
Yeah, it really was. It was just one of those classic battles of good versus evil, and obviously you've kind of reformatted yourself a little bit, but when you're out there wrestling, was there any one particular thing that made you want to be a wrestler? I mean, obviously you love your bike. You could have just gotten on a bike and rode around country, but you decided to follow BTW and be a professional wrestler. So where did that all start?
I've always loved to fight, and like it's just always been like, of course, like I love bikes and all that. I've always been a fighter first and foremost, and I don't know, I just got started like in a small little company with Blade, and he brought me in. We tagged a little bit here and there, and then we ended things in a pretty messed up way, and then I don't know, like Tony Blaze came up to me and asked me to join BTW, and yeah, you pretty much know the rest.
Yeah, and a lot of people are in love with their cars. A lot of people are in love with certain items they possess, and obviously yours is your bike. So where did that start from childhood? Did that happen in adulthood? And what is it? What is the link that links you as a person to the equipment that you ride in your motorcycles? What is it that makes you so attached to your motorcycles that you identify yourself as simply the biker?
Well, I mean, honestly, I started, as like in childhood. Like my dad was a part of a biker gang, and like if anyone's ever seen SOA, it's kind of weirdly similar. Yeah, it started as a childhood thing, like you said, and I've just always loved bikes, like from a kid growing up, and my dad was a biker, and he just got me into it, and he was like in a biker gang, and I did that for a little while, but after, I mean, I've always wanted to fight, and I've always been a fighter at heart, so I've always But I've always, like, biking's like my main, like, wrestling and biking. That's just my two loves in life.
Right. So yeah, it would make sense that you would combine the two and kind of, live out your love for both at once. So, moving on here to your actual professional career in BTW, you started off on Devastation. The Anomaly showed up, kind of gave Chris Colt a whooping that kind of left the Renegades, searching a little bit. And then you ended up on Levolution. So, before we get into what you're actually doing right now with your faction war and your current team members, how are you and the other Renegades settling into Levolution, and what are the biggest differences between competing on Booker's brand as opposed to the original staple of Devastation?
Well, like you said, the Anomalies came and gave the Renegades quite a whooping on Devastation, took out Colt, and now we're kind of without Billy, but she was a part of the original group. And if you really think about it, the only person who was a member of the original Renegades anymore is Freight Train, and he's actually now out for a short time. But I don't know, like, when we went over to Levolution, things just exploded. Like, we just started seeing, I'm not gonna say immediate success, but immediate exposure. And we started getting a lot of people wanting to join up. Well, I mean, like Big Country joined up on Devastation. Keisha Jade joined up on Devastation. But when we went over, started getting more members and more people wanting to follow us. And I mean, it's like, we were doing good on Devastation. When we went to Levolution, I feel like we just really made it big, I guess you could say.
Right, you clicked and you found some new pieces like Dwayne Awesome. How's he settling into his new role in the Renegades?
Yes, Dwayne Awesome. If you really step back and look at Lance Adams and Dwayne Awesome, you wouldn't think we would work so well together, because he's like very, just very pumped up and excited, and I mean, and I'm like more kind of like, I mean, I get angry, of course, but I'm like pretty reserved for the most part, and if you look at us, we're very kind of different people. He's fit in remarkably well, and I've been just loved. I'm glad that I added him. Like, I'm glad that we got him in.
Yeah, and your team's got been on quite a roll recently on Levolution, but obviously you do have the huge match with TNA and Team Cena coming up at King of the Hill next week.
Right.
You guys have been battling on and off in a three-way feud on Levolution for the past few weeks. So, who do you look to if you would consider yourself the commanding officer of the Renegades? Who would you look at as your first lieutenant when you go out there to Levolution every week? And it would be Big Country or Keisha or Dwayne or Freight Train. Who would it be that you look to as your second in command?
Oh, that's a tough one, because every member brings a certain thing to the, just a certain like finesse to the group. Keisha's always, like, me and Keisha have always been pretty close. I mean, we may have crossed paths when she was with Black Justice on Devastation and I was with RWO. We may have crossed paths, but I've always been a Keisha fan. And Big Country, few people don't know this, but me and Big Country, this is not the first time we've crossed paths either. BTW, yes, but like other places, no. And honestly, it's just he's been such a hard worker. So if I had to choose a number two, I think I might have to go with Big Country, just because he's such a hard worker. Freight Train and Keisha J are right there. But if I had to choose one, I think I'd go with Big Country.
As far as your opponents at King of the Hill go, TNA's advantage has always been their ultra aggression, their attitude. They're really dangerous out there in that ring, and they're getting more and more cohesive every week. Team Cena's main advantage was team cohesion and leadership, but now all of a sudden that team is just falling apart. Chris Chambers wants to be the leader. T Dynamite doesn't know what side he's on. Cena can't control anybody on his team. So, if you ask me, if you ask this host, I would say that with everything going on, Team Cena's, I wouldn't really count them as a threat in this match. Obviously, they're not going to go out there and lay down, but eventually all this infighting is really going to cause a problem. But then you still got TNA. You still got Tony Blaze II and Mr. Hollywood and Black Mastodon and all those guys. And TB2 has really proven all of his doubters wrong and proven to be one of, if not the most dangerous hardcore champion in BTW history. So, what is it about your team? If I asked you, why are the Renegades going to win this faction war? What is it about your team that's going to put you over the aggression of TNA and the experience of Team Cena?
Well, yeah, see, we may not have we may not have the experience of Team Cena. Like, Cena's been wrestling in BTW longer than I have. That's very true. I mean, yeah, he's been in it a lot longer than I have, and a few others, yeah, maybe. But like you said, there's a lot of discord there, so I don't want to say that they're not a threat, because everyone is a threat. But I just believe that we have the true teammanship, I guess you could call it. Like, we just know how to work as a team and a solid unit. And like TNA hasn't really had any issues either, but the Renegades have never shown any sign of discord between us. We've always been on the same page. We've always been a very strong, cohesive unit. And I believe in a stable war such as this, that's what you really need.
So who are you, 2 questions here regarding the match at King of the Hill. What one man out of both groups would you look at and say, that's the man that we have to keep contained, that's the man that we can't let beat us? And also, after you answer that question, what is your overall strategy that you've been preaching to the Renegades about the match in general?
Well, of course, with TNA, you have Tony Blaze II, who's obviously a huge threat. I mean, he has definitely proven that he is not the same man his father was. And he is an extremely, I'll give him a little bit of credit. He is an extremely talented wrestler. But I also want to point out, Mr. Hollywood is not somebody to look over either. Mr. Hollywood has done very well. Not really a big fan of his attitude or cockiness or any of that. But those two, I think I might have to give the advantage slightly to TB2, but those two are definitely something to look out for. And as for...
And just out of curiosity before we move on, who is the one man from Team Cena that you're going to isolate and make sure that they don't beat you if you had to pick one?
See, they've been having a lot of issues, so it's kind of hard, because honestly, like, my strategy with them is just to kind of let them, like...
Yeah, let them fight and let them take each other out. I can see where that might
pretty
work.
much, yeah. But Team Cena does, or I hate to just pick the leaders, but Cena does have the experience. But Dynamite, I'm also going to talk about Dynamite. Dynamite's been really impressive too, but honestly, I'm not trying to underestimate anybody, because that's just underestimating people is what's really going to make one of these teams get pinned, is by underestimating the other two. So I'm not going to underestimate Team Cena, but I'm going to look at probably either T Dynamite or Iris Cena himself.
So what is now the overall strategy for bringing the Renegades out on top at King of the Hill?
Stay together. Don't underestimate anybody. And honestly, we're gonna start with the leaders and break them down from the top, because an old line I heard is, once you take out the head, the body's gonna die. So we're gonna aim right at TB2, right at Iris Cena, and we're gonna try to take them out first.
Okay, and win or lose this Sunday, what are your goals, your plans, your strategy moving forward with your career, either just as a biker or with the Renegades? What's the plan for Lance Adams, win or lose, after this Sunday? Honestly,
we're just trying to, this whole battle has just been about us trying to bring, of course, you look at Levolution's far from normal. but at least try to bring some stability. As for the Renegades, like after this, we're just going to look to compete as well as we can, like we always have. And hey, maybe we could get some gold in the process.
Yeah, speaking of gold, the rumor mills are running rampant on the internet that the leader of whatever faction comes out on top this week maybe deserves a shot at getting into the world title picture. So how much would that mean to you, and do you think right now you're ready to hang at the top of the card with guys like Matthews and Andrews and Prodigy and all those guys that are battling for the gold right now?
See, I've heard that as well. It's all been speculation, but Lance Adams, and to be honest with myself here, Lance Adams has never held a world title. I mean, I'm a internet champion, Ironman champion, US champion. I've never held a world title, and that is just going to make me that much more hungrier and that much more wanting to get the gold and to win for Team Renegade.
All right, Lance. Well, just as I do with every guest every week, I want to thank you for being on the show with us.
No problem.
And giving up your time to let us a little more into the world of the biker to get to know you a little better. It's been really informative and really fun. Before I let you go, I do want to give you the floor. Anything else you want to say to the BTW fans or the locker room, or just anything you want to say in general? Even if you just want to just say hi to your mom or talk about what you had for dinner last night. I'll give you a minute just to free roam and say what you're feeling right now before we let you go.
All right. BTW, you're going to see the Renegades win the first match of the Warfare, Tag Team Warfare. And TNA is going to lose. You may not think that right now because you've just been seeing them run rampant and do what they do, attack people out of the blue. But that's not going to continue. Team Cena, y'all got good heart, but you can't stay together. So the Renegades are going to prove who the better faction really is.
Confidence is key. I'll be looking forward to that match, Lance. Thanks for joining us one more time on the BTW podcast. All right, we'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya.
So let's play Dr. Blade. We'll operate today. Incisions must be made. You could help solve this case for me. I headed downtown to show what I found.
Welcome back, ladies and gents, to the BTW podcast. Okay, that's a little too dramatic for what we do. But we are back again this week, and my co-host for this week is one of the originators of the BTW podcast and current general manager of Devastation. So I'm sure you can expect a completely biased opinion, Mr. Franklin Zamora. What's going on, Frank?
Proud to be representing Devastation once again.
Alright, so let's go ahead and kick things off with the opposite brand. At the time of recording, the results, the feed for Levolution has not been posted online, so we have not been able to view the show to see what happened, but we are just going to go ahead and read ahead because everything that's going on this week is just a build up to next week's second annual King of the Hill pay-per-view. We're going to go run down the card, give our predictions and thoughts. There are more matches that might be announced tonight, so I apologize if we leave anybody out. But as for the matches that we have set so far, we have a grudge match between Josh Steinberg and Eric Morrows with his friend Andrew Martin at ringside. So what do you think is going to go on there?
I can expect some Andrew Martin interference, but neither Martin nor Morrow have really been impressing me as of late. I'm going to go with Josh Steinberg because that kid has...
Yeah, he's been hungry ever since he got called up. He really has. He's turned a lot of heads, and I don't know, Eric Morrow's X-Dog, he tried to shake X-Dog, but it's just not working real well. That dog's kind of latched onto his ass with his teeth, and it's not really letting go. So yeah, I mean, it's still going to be a good match, and I'm sure that both men are going to come out and impress, but I'm going to say that Steinberg goes out and gets the victory and keeps his momentum going. We also have another grudge match here, no disqualification. The former world champion Christopher Andrews versus the man who costed him the championship, Anarchist. So we'll have to see what goes on tonight. with these two and see how it builds. But Andrews, obviously a lot of animosity with Anarchist, costing him the championship, but Anarchist may be the hungrier of the two. He's going out to prove a point, but if you die, you can't really prove much of a point. So where do you think this one's going to swing?
I don't know. I think Andrews has his own brand of crazy, but that brand of crazy kind of leaves an opening for an even bigger crazy to come in and start pulling the strings. So I think Anarchist finds a way to get into Christopher Andrews' head and pulls it off.
Yeah, he's definitely already gotten into Andrews' head. You know, Andrews is a special kind of crazy, but it also takes a special kind of crazy to go out and hit that special kind of crazy with a chair and cost him the world championship. So Andrews is angry. He's just as violent as he ever was. But like I said, Anarchist is coming in with something to prove. So like you said, that may prove an advantage over Andrews and give him a huge propulsion up the card. We'll see if he can build on top of that. The BTW Junior Heavyweight Championship will be defended. Johnny Epic Douglas defends against Shane Black in a best 2 out of 3 falls. The one thing you can say about Levolution is that the junior division matches are always classic, especially the World Championship matches. So, how do you see this one playing out?
I don't know. Shane Black, he's somebody who, when you look back a few months ago to Best of the Best, I thought that was it. I thought that was his moment. I thought he was going to become the face of the junior division, beat Jin Kaze for the title. But obviously that didn't happen. Johnny Douglas ended up winning it, so maybe this is his moment. I'm gonna go ahead, take a risk, and say Shane Black finds his crowning moment.
Shane Black's got a lot of accomplishments in his BTW career. Never been a world champion. Winning the junior heavyweight championship would classify him as a world champion, and that really could be the next step that he's looking for to move up to the back of the Levolution card, to the top end of the Levolution card, I should say. So yeah, I'm gonna take Shane Black. I root for Shane Black. I like Shane Black. I like his charisma and his enthusiasm. So I'm gonna say that he gets the biggest win of his career and wins the championship. Warfare Series match 1, TNA versus the Renegades versus Team Cena. The person who gets pinned or is made to submit will get kicked out of whichever faction he is in. And just to run down the members for anyone who might need a refresher here, Tony Blaze II, the leader of TNA, the Violent Hardcore Champion, with Mr. Hollywood, Black Mastodon, and Bo Dallas. Team Cena, this is one of the most dysfunctional groups of fuckers I've ever seen in my life. Irish Cena, T Dynamite, Chris Chambers, and Jin Kaze. The Renegades will have Lance Adams, Freight Train, Bobby White, and Dwayne Awesome representing them. So, the plug right now is that Team Cena, none of them like each other anymore. Chambers and Dynamite are down to Cena's leadership. Cena doesn't like that at all. TNA's been on a roll, been beating the hell out of a lot of people and doing it in the most violent ways possible. But the Renegades really seem to have a lot of cohesiveness right now. So really, there's a lot going on, and match 1 of this Warfare Series could go either way, but where do you see it going?
I see it going to TNA. I feel like Tony Blaze has been on quite the roll, or Tony Blaze Jr., I might add. He's been on quite the roll. He's the hardcore champion, and he seems to be one of the rising stars.
In the interview that I did with Lance Adams to start the show, he sounded pretty confident. He said that the Renegades' cohesiveness was going to give them an advantage. He said that they would be able to counter the aggressiveness of TNA. And he said basically that the strategy for Team Cena was just to sit back and let them kill each other, which at this point seems to be a pretty solid plan. I'm not seeing anything from Team Cena that tells me they're going to pull together last minute and pull off a miracle between the ropes. So I'm with you though. I think TNA is going to take match 1 of the Warfare Series, and I wouldn't be surprised if TNA eventually gets the sweep and comes out as the dominant faction on Levolution. The last match we currently have listed for King of the Hill is the second King of the Hill ladder match. This will be for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I'm going to be honest, I mean, aside from Prodigy, he'll have Sinister at his side. There hasn't been a huge amount of build-up with some of the men in this match. Julius Council seems to be on a bit of a soft streak. We haven't heard a lot from RJ Grimm. Robbie Van Dyke just seems to have come out of nowhere and entered the main event, but he doesn't seem to be taking advantage and grasping that spotlight. Kevin Matthews has been on the show every week, and he's been as impressive as ever, but I think just by default, just on momentum alone, I think you have to pick Prodigy in this one to retain, don't you?
You know what, I want to say something different, because there's a kid in this match who saw a lot of potential in coming in. He started in and he was green as hell, and by the first 2 weeks of his training in New Rising, he was already a star and turning heads. So I'm going to go ahead and say RJ Grimm takes it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of RJ Grimm as well. It just seems that lately I don't know if, I don't want to say he's lost his hunger. I don't want to say that about any professional wrestler. And I'd like to see RJ Grimm get his moment in the spotlight. I really would. But I need to see more, you know? I need to see more from everybody involved in this match that tells me that they want to win, that they want to be the World Heavyweight Championship. Another thing I talked about with Lance Adams is he said that one of his goals after the Warfare series is over, one of his goals is to go for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I gotta be honest, for a man who's never won a World Championship, he sounded a lot hungrier in this one interview that I had with him than any of these guys in the King of the Hill match have sounded over this match in previous weeks. So, again, my pick's gonna be Prodigy. I'm looking forward to the match. I really am. I'm not saying I'm not. I'm just saying individually from each man, I'd like to see a little more when it comes to, what they want to get out of this match and to win the World Heavyweight Championship. So, moving on here from Levolution, we'll wait and see what happens at King of the Hill next week, and Levolution that was scheduled to be released tonight. Before we move on to Devastation, at this point in time, I'm trying to reach, the new, David Jernigan, the new, booker promoter for BTW New Rising, to get some information on how he plans to book the show. I haven't been able to reach him for comment so far. So Frank, as someone who is familiar with the call-up process with New Rising as the general manager of Devastation, who are maybe the top 5 guys that you're looking at in New Rising right now to make a lot of headway, in their careers in the next little bit?
My number 5 would have to be Ralph Marsh. He's a bit of a rough and tough brawler, but he has something about him that doesn't quite put him anywhere on the spectrum in terms of black or white, good or evil, but it still makes him lovable in a sense. It's just something that comes out about him, this natural charisma. My number 4 would probably have to be the Irish brawler Mick White. He's been on a bit of a hot streak, always has great matches, whether he's up against a brawler or a high flyer. He has a bit of experience on his side, and he's very charismatic on the mic. My number 3 would have to be a longtime veteran that has just entered the New Rising field once more. He was back when I had strong associations with New Rising. During the first time I had strong associations with New Rising, now he's back, he's hungrier, he's ready to compete. Jeremy Brock, they call him the King of Elbows for a reason, and I think it's going to be a huge hit here. My number 2 would have to be a guy that came out of nowhere. Now, I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the name, so I'm just going to say Marco, and then his last name starts with
Yeah, it's the Travis Kelly or something like that. I'll give it my best shot, but yeah, Marco.
He's very charismatic, very talented. He's been missing from what I heard lately, going through some personal issues, but whenever he does show up, he always impresses, he always delivers. And my number 1, he's been a constant in New Rising, he's been here a long time, and he's always been one of the best there, always competed with the best and held his own. He's gotta be the Omega champion, Jack Llewellyn.
Alright, so yeah, I'm hoping to get the interview with David to discuss the future of New Rising, but keep a lookout for all 5 of those names, and we'll see if any of them are able to make an impact on the main roster sooner rather than later. So we closed the show by talking about the recent action on Devastation. As always, the action overall, as far as percentage of the show, was dominated by the Horsemen and the Anomalies, but a huge night this past week. We saw the return of Duke Jacobs. We saw Keisha Jade become the number 1 contender for the Women's Championship. Kevin Ralston, almost killing Jason Silva, and, Jason Masterson injuring Bill Cage. So a lot went down, but we also saw the return of DC Zamcham, and he seems to have a bone to pick with Duke Jacobs. So 2 new huge fresh faces on Devastation. Devastation's been on a roll lately, but these 2 new faces have breathed even more life into the show. So Devastation's in a good spot right now, and it looks like DC and Duke Jacobs are going to have a hell of a fight on their hands with each other.
I gotta agree that the fresh faces do help a lot. Another thing that you didn't mention is the ongoing somewhat of a identity crisis with longtime Levolution star, new Devastation signee, Blade,
Right.
who also goes as Test Jax, I believe.
Yeah, Ty Jax. He's got kind of a split personality going on right now.
I mean, that's sure to play a factor regardless of whether he's Blade or Ty Jax. He's been great. He's been on a roll. He's another fresh face on Devastation. DC is another fresh face on Devastation. He's had history with tons of names there, from Mike Moore to Jackson Ellis to the one and only Jason Masterson to Kevin Ralston. We're sure to see a lot of great rivalries come out of that. And then obviously we have Duke Jacobs, a man who, speaking as someone who personally signed him, I have no clue what the hell Levolution was thinking when they let him go. But you know what? That's their loss, my gain. And as a businessman, I saw an opportunity and I took it. And I think this kid in the future will be giving him my standpoint.
Yeah, it's definitely a match of present versus future with DC versus Duke Jacobs, and DC obviously has the experience edge in BTW and experience edge in Devastation now as well, looking to get a fresh start back on where he started, so he's definitely got home field advantage, but Duke Jacobs has proven before that he can hang with the big boys just as well as anybody else, so I'm looking forward to see where that goes. Now the women's division has also received a spark ever since the return of Moose Knuckles. We've got Moose Knuckles as the women's champion. We've got Keisha, Misbehavior, and Carmen, Sally Jawbreaker. But this past week, Keisha Jade defeated Misbehavior, became the number one contender for the women's championship. So it looks like we're going to get a match that a lot of people have wanted for a long time, Moose versus Keisha.
Keisha Jones has been somebody who's been on my radar for a long time, probably dating back to that New Rising matchup she had with Lucid. She's always been consistent, especially ever since the New Rising run. Misbehavior is another consistent name. I mean, if you want consistency, what's more consistent than coming back and winning the women's championship on your return? They had a great match. The women's division has become a highlight of Devastation. And with this battle between two, I don't want them to take this as an offense, but demons to a point of women. I mean, there's massive powerhouses. They have tons of talent, and they can just flat out go. I think we're going to see one of the greatest women's matches ever in big time wrestling history. And if you gotta ask me my pick on who's gonna come out on top, I think that final breath that Keisha Jones is gonna take, Heatwave is gonna be your strongest.
We also saw a huge surprise here as Maul Sidious made a surprise appearance. Maul and Dredd stood behind Damien. So it looks like Maul Sidious has joined this satanic cult for all intents and purposes in the tag team division. And as strong as Damien and Dredd looked before, they've now got this strange creature known as Maul Sidious behind them. And Max Stevens and Vinny Brash might be in some trouble here.
You know, as somebody who's had their eye on Maul Sidious since day one, I can say there's probably no better person to talk about this week than Maul Sidious. Ever since he came onto the scene, he's impressed me. He's constantly delivered, and he's been a force to be reckoned with. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he's undefeated.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't think he's lost a match yet.
And every match seems to end in the same way, the same dominant fashion. So that's sure to add to the spot to Satan, even though I personally don't really like them much. I'd say Maul's got potential, and he's the lesser of evils here.
And before we move on to the events of the Horsemen and the Anomalies for the night, I just want to say the card for Devastation right now is so freaking stacked. I mean, you think about, we had a match, a tag team match in the middle of the night that you booked where DC was able to get the victory over DJK. But you think about all these guys that we've got right now, Ty Jax, Judas Black, and Mike Moore making a comeback, at DJK, DC returning, Duke Jacobs coming back. The Devastation card right now is so freaking stacked. Who do you think is going to be the first one to really explode from that card and make the impact, make a bigger impact than everybody else, quicker than everybody else?
honestly, the man we were just talking about from all cities has got to be Mike.
Yeah.
He's just an absolute force to be reckoned with.
And then they're obviously their main goal is to get to the top, win the BTW championship, but to do that they're going to have to defeat either General Spike or Jackson Ellis. This violent personal rivalry comes to a head at BTW Heatwave as they challenge for the BTW championship. Me and Mr. Murphy discussed last week. Spike's got a lot on his shoulders. He did come out on top with a blow to Jackson Ellis during their contract signing this week, but a lot of the times the smaller moves don't really get you anywhere. So who are you looking at right now as your favorite to walk out of Heatwave as the new champion?
Ellis has been dominant, and he's on a hot streak. He's got something to prove after being kept just one step away for so long. He's finally taken that step, and he's planting his foot so firmly down that he's going to make sure nobody moves him. However, if there's anybody that can move him, it's General Spike. He's come back with a chip on his shoulder. He's come back with more training, different skill sets. He's changed everything up, and I think knowing Ellis as well as he does, doing Black Justice Comrades, that extra training that Ellis isn't expecting is going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, and it's funny what you said about nobody moving Jackson Ellis, because that's exactly where I was going to go. It took so long for Jackson Ellis to get to where he was, and like Jackson Ellis or hate him, and I mean he's had times in BTW where people have hated him, and he's had times where people have loved him, but like him or hate him, Jackson Ellis has been one of the most patient men in BTW, I think. I think he was one of the most talented men to never receive a one-on-one world championship opportunity. Obviously, he got a pinfall around this time last year at King of the Hill in the championship scramble match, but he's never had a championship reign. And now that he's got it, I mean, I just don't see any way that he lets General Spike walk out with that championship after only a month of having it. I don't think he's gonna allow himself to watch that championship walk out. So I'm gonna go with Ellis in the advantage here too. Spike, props to Spike, give Spike everything he's deserved and all the praise, but I think Jackson Ellis, the momentum is on his side, which is kind of the theme of the week, so I'm gonna keep it to stick with him. Now in the continuing war between the Horsemen and the Anomalies, brawl broke out very early in the show, so the animosity is really boiling over here, and then two more salvos were thrown. First we had Jason Masterson defending his internet championship against Bill Cage. He may have broken his leg. We're hearing reports that Bill Cage could be out anywhere from 2 to 3 months, depending on how the doctors look at him. So, it's a shame to see any wrestler get injured, but it looks like Kevin Ralston's mind games might just be working here.
No, it seems that whenever last year the Horsemen were on the opposite side of the situation, back in a house show match, DC Sam Cham on the road to Heatwave injured John Anderson. And now Jason Masterson has managed to move quite the opposite to the Anomalies. So it's kind of nice to see how the cards have turned, in a sense. However, I think with the loss of Bill Cage, who's been kind of a powerhouse of the Anomalies, it's really going to put them in a tough position, especially when they need that power style to contrast the rather quick style of men like Jade, men like Jade Blaze and men like Dave Shirai. I think the Horsemen, with this turn of events, have managed to find the way to get the win on the Anomalies.
Later on in the night, though, Kevin Ralston, Jason Silva fought as hard as he could, just like he said he would, but Kevin Ralston hurt Jason Silva just like he said he would. So going up into the build-up of Jason Masterson versus Kevin Ralston, Masterson looks good, but Kevin Ralston may look even better here.
I don't know. I think both men have done a lot, and I mean, they faced two former champions. Kevin Ralston facing a former junior champion, and Bill Cage being a former internet champion. I think it could really go either way at this point.
So this war really is residing on this one-on-one match at Heatwave, but let's talk about the rest of the guys for a minute. The foot soldiers, if you will. Kevin Ralston declares himself as the leader of the Anomalies. Jason Masterson says there is no leader of the Anomalies. and they're all equal. He's pretty much walked the walk. I haven't seen him really bark an order on Devastation like he was last year. But and we're going to leave Bill Cage out for the moment because we don't know how long he's going to be shelved. But with Bruce Fisher, and then you got TJ Shadows, obviously a former champion, and then on the other side you got Silva, who might be injured. We haven't heard a report on him. And then Shirai and Blaze as the general manager of Devastation. Who do you look to make and let's leave Shadows out actually as well, because he's already made that leap as a champion. So with the three other horsemen and then with Bruce Fisher, who do you expect to make that big leap, before the others?
Tough choice, but I gotta say it's the man holding the briefcase. The proof is in the pudding. It's gotta be Dave Shirai.
Yeah, he's got an advantage over the others, definitely, with that briefcase, but even then a briefcase isn't a guaranteed world title shot, especially now that you're either going to have to defeat Jackson Ellis or Spike. And even if you wait, you've got guys all up and down that Devastation card, DC, Masterson, Ralston, DJ K, Judas Black, all these guys that could easily become world champions if given the opportunity. So even if Shirai picks the opportune moment to cash in that briefcase, it may be difficult for him. And then Jay Blaze and Fisher, obviously they've got a lot of talent as well, and I think all of them are going to have their moments in the sun sooner rather than later. Shirai has the advantage when it comes to the briefcase, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jay Blaze or Fisher in a main event for a world championship way sooner than we're expecting. So a loaded show on Devastation. We got another loaded show coming up this Monday that we'll talk about next week. Is there anything else, Mr. Zamora, that we have omitted for any of the shows that you would like to see discussed before we get out of here?
Nope, not that I know of, unless you got anything. I know you have connections with Primetime. Any announcement you'd like to make?
Not as of yet. I've been in contact with Eric King trying to, and obviously it's hard to get him just to give you a straight answer, but hopefully we're going to see Primetime back by the start of next month, and we are going to see some changes made to the booking and to the release of the show. So more on that as we get it. Right now, no immediate announcement. So it looks like we're finished up here. Great week of BTW action. We've got Heatwave just around the bend. King of the Hill coming up next week. New Rising is starting to pick things back up, so we're going to have a lot to talk about again very soon. The BTW podcast will be back next week. And before we go out of here, Frank, I think we should bring back the tradition of a superstar of the week. If you want to give one out, and if you want to go ahead and give one out for both Levolution and Devastation here, and we'll see who stuck out this week above all else.
For Levolution, I'm gonna go ahead and say, with the way he's been handling the doubt given by his team, he's still holding his own. I'm gonna go ahead and say the Irish Cena.
Yeah. But then again, I mean, he's handling it personally well, but professionally, he kind of sucks because his team hates him. I don't know why. I don't know what's not to like about the Irish Cena. Maybe Chambers and T Dynamite just don't want to be the nice guys. I mean, that's what, that may also be well with the success and the opportunity that Irish Cena has been given, but I mean, as leader of a group and as a veteran, you're going to get those opportunities. So I mean, we'll see how the match goes.
Keep in mind that he's also in the team with the guy who's pretty much the Levolution veteran, having won several titles there and been there since the beginning in Jin Kazi.
Yeah, and he's like I said, we'll see. I'm going to wait before I give any praise to Irish Cena. I'm going to wait and see how the series goes with the factions here. I'm going to go ahead and give Superstar of the Week. I'm going to give it to TB2. Win or lose, TB2 always seems to do something to stick out and come out on top week to week. He gets that from his daddy, and he's proven to be one of the most malicious, dangerous, hardcore champions in BTW history. So what about your Devastation Star of the Week?
I gotta say, with the way he came back and the fact that he managed to pick up the win for his team, kind of setting himself apart from the other recent debutees and other returning stars, I gotta give it to DC.
And I'm going to give it, I could give it to DC easily. I could also give it for a strong performance to Duke Jacobs, but, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it to Kevin Ralston for his dominating performance over Jason Silva in the main event. He kept his promise and he sent the message that he promised to send. So, if Kevin Ralston is anything, it's a man of his word. So Kevin Ralston is and DC's M-Chair are our Devastation Superstars of the Week. TB2 and the Irish Cena are the Levolution Stars of the Week. We'll have more to add next week. So Franklin, if you don't have anything else, I'll go ahead and sign us out here. Thank you for joining Frank and myself. Watch Frank over on Devastation. Catch me and my guest host next week here on the BTW podcast. You guys have a great night.